Welcome to the Gravel Paddock, the podcast that takes you directly inside a professional gravel peloton. I'm your host, Antonin Livassé, Sports Marketing Manager. Here, we bypass the fluff and talk about what actually matters: raw race tactics, pro tech setup, and the unfiltered business of modern racing. From the UCI World on Gravel Earth Series to the American Monuments of the Lifetime Grand Prix, the race starts here. Let's get into today's episode. Welcome to the episode 8 of the Gravel Paddock. Today we are talking about extreme highs, devastating lows, and pure resilience. My guest had one of the strongest European spring campaigns in the peloton before facing the brutal reality of the Kansas mud. Welcome to the pod, Ben Perry.
Thanks for having me.
So, for listeners, give us a quick rewind. You have an extensive background on the road. What sparked the transition to the dirt, and what kind of rider are you today?
So I had a pretty okay road career. I was kind of always struggling to keep a pro contract, and then I had a really good year. I went to a continental team for a year, and I got fourth at the Tour of Britain, and I had some good results in point one races in Europe, and signed with a US based pro continental team. And then that year I just got sick and had some time off, and then came back from time off and broke my collarbone right away, and then was kind of told that I would be getting a new contract despite having been sick and been broken. The team was respectful and saying like, yeah, you haven't really had a lot of luck this year, and like last year you were great, even though I wasn't on the team the year before. But in my period coming back from being sick to breaking my collarbone, a friend of mine was like, oh, there's a gravel race in Girona called the Traka. Like, build a gravel bike up and we can go do some gravel rides for fun and just do the race. And then I got third that year in the 200. And then basically, yeah, the team I was on folded, and I just didn't have a good year. I didn't race very much, and I was kind of relying on them re-signing me as my safety. And then when that folded, I had nothing to show for that year, so I couldn't really go somewhere else. And then and when I had some options to do gravel, I was thinking, no, it's fun, but I'm a road cyclist, and I love to ride the gravel bike and do the gravel race when I can. But I have a career on the road still, and it just ended. And then I was excited for a new opportunity, I guess, because I didn't have a lot of options on the road. I could have gone to Portugal or maybe come back to North America and raced. And then I was like, yeah, I can see new parts of the world and do different races and race something a little bit different and kind of challenge myself. So that's kind of how I transitioned from road to gravel.
Okay, yeah, you took the opportunity directly, and now you're really into this. And being a Canadian racing primarily in Europe, how do you handle the massive logistic travel and the overall setup of the privateer life? Because you are in Canada right now.
Yeah, I'm in Canada now, so it's I spend most of my time in Girona in Spain. But yeah, it's I really enjoy, like, I think I'm a really organized person, so it's logistically challenging to be always to be like, oh, I need to order a new chain ring, I need to order more tires. Like, well, I need tires for this race. It's in 3 weeks, but I want to test them before I race with them. And then there's okay, who's going to this race? And it's a lot. It's really good being in Girona because you make a lot. And also, I think a big thing with gravel is you have to be very open and very social almost. Like, you have to be open to being social and making friends and being like, hey, like, Anton, are you going to this race? Like, do you want to get on the same flight and we'll split a car, split a hotel, whatever, and then just cost sharing? Because yeah, there's more and more money behind gravel, but it's not nowhere near where the road is. So I really enjoy doing the logistics. And like, even now, like, I'm home where I grew up, and I probably spend like 2 weeks a year here, but it's like, okay, I'll go from Spain to Unbound, and then here's only like 3 hours flying away from where Unbound is, and then Nationals is the other side of Canada next weekend. So I can kind of make my own logistical plan to be home for a little bit between races and see my family and friends here. And it's kind of nice because the road, it's just like, here's your ticket to the race, here's your ticket home, here's your ticket to the race, here's your ticket home. Where in gravel, it's really fun to be like, hey, do you guys want to stay in Iceland for 2 more days? Do you want to stay in Kansas for 2 more days? I don't know if anyone's ever done that, but yeah, it's nice that you can have a lot of freedom.
Yeah, especially coming from the road, where everything is really structured and organized. You go on the team bus, you had your race, after you go back to the hotel, you have the massage, the diner, and you have the same schedule the day after. So it should be really refreshing coming onto the gravel scene and having to manage everything, but also enjoying a bit more the moment of the race, the moment before and the moment after.
Yeah, there's things you miss, like spending hours like doing my tires and changing things. I need sealant, I need to find a floor pump. things like that. Where on a road team, yeah, you have a broken shifter. They're like, okay, and they take it off and throw it in the garbage, and they put a new one on. Where you can't do that in gravel, like unless you're in a big team setup. But yeah, it is also nice. That is a really good point. Like before, it was okay. You wake up at this time, breakfast is at this time. Maybe you have to do skin folds. Maybe you have to be on the bus at this time, and then you have the meeting at this time, and then you have massage at this time, and it's luxurious having all these things just done for you. But also, you do feel kind of like you're an animal in the zoo. You just kind of have a place to be every hour, and you just have your 2 hours in bed in a hotel somewhere, and you feel guilty if you want to go walk around and explore the area because none of your teammates are going to be doing that. They're all going to be laying in bed, so it's nice.
Coming back now onto the 2026 season and new spring campaign, it was really good. It started the good ramp up results with the gravel desert when you finished P8. After you did Monaco UCI races with a fourth place, the Gralock fifth place, and of course the Traka 360 when you finished fourth, but you were riding for the podium spots. So you were constantly fighting at the very front. How did you build such a consistent peak for this spring campaign?
I think I did a lot of work in the winter, just doing a mix of sort of light gym work and just a lot of base kilometers. And I think too, also like I've coached myself for quite a while, and I have my own sort of principles of coaching, but I think I just do a lot of consistent, decent work for months, and then it just building a really good base, I think is really important. And then I got married in January, so I had like 3 weeks off the bike, and I kind of lost a bit of, I mean, I lost quite a bit there, but I had already done the work. So that was kind of like a second off season. So at, yeah, Sandoval and Castellon at the beginning of the year, I just was not ready at all. I'd just been riding for a week or two before, since having 3 weeks off. But then I had enough base form that I was trying to build up for the hills and kind of start being sort of in the mindset of being I'm starting to feel good at the hills. And I didn't have a great race at the hills, but I made some pretty big mistakes as well. But yeah, I mean, I think just being consistent and staying healthy and not overdoing it at any point, but having a lot of high end consistent work is kind of my secret. And I think I'm happy that it worked out the way I planned it. So yeah, I feel like I've just been able to hold a really good block of form for quite a while now. So see how much longer I can hold it, because now it gets a bit more complicated with like race, week off, race, week off, race, week off, like kind of all the way until mid July. So see how it goes. But yeah, it's been good.
And if we zooming in on that P4 at Traka 360, it's a great result, but we know you crash near the end while riding for a podium spot. Walk us through that final. How do you process coming so close to the box after that long race?
It's interesting. The race is so long and so much can happen. Like there was a point early on, like in the first hour, where there's 6 of us left at the front, like on top of the climbs, and then I was thinking, okay, I think I'm one of the strongest, but it's also like hour 1 out of 10. And then everyone came back, and it was more stress about fighting for position. And then I blew up again in the middle part of the race, and I flatted, and then I managed to get back from the flat in the hilly part. And then we were a group of maybe 7. We caught some people from a early break who were kind of didn't have a lot of gas left. And then there was Beers, Bardet, and Cam Jones and I like doing all the work. But then a really big group caught us right before like the last key climb. And then Bardet just went like hard right away, and only Matt Beers and I could follow. So then I was again like, okay, I am still feeling good, because mentally I went from a place of like, oh, I'm racing 15 guys now for top 5, but I could very easily end up being 20th. But that is still, again, like at that point, it's still almost 4 hours to go. So you don't know what's going to change. But yeah, in the end, I'm actually really happy with 4th, because the course has like the really steep climb, maybe with 15 minutes to go. And then it's just flat until single track. And then the single track is it's not nice single track. It's like a walking path. Like it's not smooth at all. It's just don't mess up. So I knew in the group, I was thinking, okay, Bardet, maybe I'm better than him at single track, but I have no idea just based on his background. And then Paul Voss, also, I'm like, I'm not sure. Like maybe he's better than me. Maybe I'm better than him, just based on the fact that they're coming from road. But then Matt Beers and Hugo Drechu, like they are both mountain bikers. So basically my plan was I was just riding along this road feeling still like okay. I'd been attacking a lot before in the last 30K, trying to get rid of basically the mountain biker guys, and couldn't. Like it would split up and then come back, split up, come back. And then I just went all in on an attack before the last climb. So I went just as hard as I could in like the minute or two before the climb. And then a couple guys, Bardet and Beers, caught me at the top of the climb. And then I was just so spent after having done the effort on the flat and then having done the climb. And then Hugo caught back up to us. And then I wish there was a camera on us for this because it was like a full gas sprint to enter the single track. And then Matt Beers like kind of crashed. And I had to, like, he didn't fall off his bike, but he had to stop. And then Hugo got past. And then I got around Matt. And then Matt caught me by the end of the single track. And then he got me in another part of the single track. And then I was by myself in fourth and crashed. And then Roman kind of caught me as I was getting up. And then he kind of made it seem like, I think being a gentleman, he's like, I'm not going to race you too hard. Like, he's like, I'm not going to screw you over for fourth. So he didn't race very tactically. I think he didn't want to take fourth from a poor little gravel privateer like me for having crashed after he'd been dropped. So he's just dropped in the single track, I guess. So, in the end, it was like, I feel like I did all I could to try to get second place, because I was thinking if it just comes down to a sprint and then a showdown in the single track, I'm not a bad sprinter, but I would never bet on myself in a sprint. I'd always try to get myself in a position where I don't have to sprint. And then in the single track, like, I'd ridden that single track before, but it's really chunky and it's kind of like maybe 2 kilometers long. So no matter what, I'm still going to lose a little bit to these mountain biker guys just because they spent their whole life doing it. Where for me, it's a novelty to ride single track at all. So, but yeah.
I wish we were able to see it on TV because it seemed that a lot happened there. But unfortunately, we hadn't been able to see it. It's a bit tricky also, this last part to follow with a motorbike. So that's good that you can tell us what happened. And it was, it seems to be something that has been challenging for you and for all the riders in this group.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I mean, I mean, this is me being biased, but I always think a lot of the best races end, like Unbound ends with like a road showdown. Roubaix ends in the velodrome. Flanders ends on like a long straight road. Liège ends on like a flat finish. I think it's kind of nice when you go through like the battle zone, the trenches for so many kilometers, and then it's like, okay, now it's just mostly intelligence who wins, not like sprinting into a single track that's all flooded and there's buried rocks. And it feels weird to be like losing a position in a race because you're like, shit. And it's not even, I would say it's almost not challenging single track. It's just dangerous single track. So, but gravel's very ambiguous still for what is, there's no right or wrong yet.
And talking about the gravel and the evolution of it, so you've been playing a leading role on the European gravel circuit for several years now. And how have you seen the dynamics, tactics, and sheer speed of that elite front group evolve since you started?
It's gotten a lot more, just the pace is high all the time, nonstop. Before you could hide a little bit, you could race a bit tactically to get somewhere, but now there's really no hiding. Especially the big thing is the team dynamic as well. Like, you see like Paz racing last year at the Traka had like a really specific team plan that really disrupted the race, and then specialized at anything that they're at. Traka as well, they just kept the pace high the whole time. There was no, let's see what somebody else does. It's like, we're going to be the ones to make it hard for everybody. And then like attacking out of feed zones as a team, you have to, it's a lot harder being an individual now than it was, because there are teams. Before there wasn't really any teams. So yeah, just the pace has gone up a lot. Like even Gralic, I averaged like almost 10% more watts for the same race 1 year apart, which is a huge jump. So yeah, it's just always on.
Okay, full gas from the start to the finish line now.
Yeah.
So now let's go on with Unbound. You arrived at Unbound carrying huge momentum, as we explained, from your spring season, but it turned into an absolute Mudfest. Walk us through the early hours of the race, and even a bit before, when you realized the weather was going to turn this into survival game.
Yeah, it's a very interesting race, because I feel like a lot of races you can decide pretty early what like tires you're going to use, what size, like you can kind of a chain ring, whatever. You can decide like pretty easily, like pretty quickly, what you're going to use. Where Unbound, I had 50 mils, but I've got these industry 9 wheels that are like really wide internal. And so the 50s measured like 54. So there's not, and my bike has clearance for 54, which like 54 industry standard is, you can fit a lot bigger than 54, but I could barely fit like a finger between the tire and the frame. And then I was actually ended up riding by accident with the tech editor from Velo, Logan. And I was asking about tire choice and everything. And then in the end, I decided to use 45 tires, kind of slick to get the mud off and with foam inserts. but I changed everything, and then it was really sunny. And like, I mean, obviously for me, for this trip, privateer in Kansas, I had a media. There's two guys from Muck Off who were doing media, and they just picked me up. Well, I just got dropped off at a hotel, and it was just me alone in a hotel room with no car and
Yeah.
no mechanic, no, like, I just kind of walking around to the grocery store and doing anything I could by walking because there's also no taxis in Emporia. So it's just a lot of like you're working full time. Like I needed to go buy gels because I ran out of gels, and you just kind of there's so much to keep track of. I actually even missed number pickup by accident, so I had to like make alternate arrangements to get my number because I couldn't get to where the number pickup was because it was like a 20-minute ride and it was pouring rain and it was
Yeah.
like a 2-hour window and all these little things. And you're like in road, you have so much more people are obviously overseeing all these things, but it's so easy to forget something or miss something. You're like, oh, I need to go get lunch. I need to change my tires. So I changed my tires back and forth twice to go to 45 and have more clearance, which I think in the end was a good decision because when I first did it, it just was all of a sudden sunny for hours. And I was like, no, it's going to be dry. I need to change them back. And then it rained all night. And then it was, yeah, the Mudfest. But yeah, I think at the start I did an okay job. Like I just kind of relaxed at the back when it was really easy. And then I made it to the front when I wanted to be there. And then I went into the mud in a not as good a position I should have, which I think was actually played a way bigger role in my result than I thought. So I basically went into the mud maybe mid group, which wasn't good enough. And then I went in with the plan. I'm not going to push my bike to the limit because it's really like glue. I'm not going to just ride until my wheels stop and then I have to clean it. I'm going to get off a little bit early. And in my mind, I was thinking I actually run for training like every 10 days or so. I'll go for like a 10K run. So I was like, okay, running, maybe I'll do better than others or will affect me less than others. So as my plan was like, I'll just wait till I see people clogging up and then I'll just jump off before my bike clogs up and I'll run and I'll try to clean it out a little bit as I go. And so I did that. And then I found myself, I think one of my first mistakes was I think could have gotten further but without clogging up because I didn't have to clear out that much mud. Like I just kind of poked at it and the wheel was spinning. And it's like, maybe I could have gotten further. And then I got in, but this is another thing is like, I don't know how many times other people have experienced this. I think people from the US, maybe more, but it's such a novel thing to ride through this kind of mud that sticks to your frame like glue. Like you can't really train that. Like you can be, oh, I know how to fix a flat. I know how to like get my chain back on while I'm riding or something like that. You learn these things, but the sticky mud is just very specific to, I feel like the Midwest of the USA. So yeah, got going, ended up in a group with a couple specialized guys and some stronger riders. And we probably spent a couple hours to get back to the very front of the race. So we were back and there's maybe 15 of us in the very front of the race when right when Mads attacked on that Texaco hill. And I actually felt like I'd done well to get there and I still felt okay. And I went over the top of the hill, maybe somewhere between 5th and 10th with the sort of the dropped riders, the first dropped riders from the more elite riders. And then it never slowed down. And I think the fact of the race being like easy until the mud and then being dead set on getting back to the front and then keeping the pace high. And it's very misleading as well, the race, because it's so straight and flat. You think, okay, I can rest, but there's so much resistance from the mud. You're getting mud in your eyes, like you're blind. You're getting mud shot into your nose, into your mouth, and you're just kind of trying to breathe without inhaling huge chunks of mud. And yeah, I think at just a certain point, I realized I'm like, oh, I've gone way too hard. We were maybe almost 4 hours in, and I was like, I've gone too deep. I should have relaxed a bit more at some point. I think I could have handled it if I would have gotten through that mud and been in the first group, and I wouldn't have had to make up the minute I lost with the other guys. So there wasn't a lot of hiding, and basically I got gapped off with some other guys, and we got caught up by another group, and we were not too far behind. We were maybe positions like 12 through 16, I think, is what those guys. Some of those guys finished in the end, and I was feeling like I'd kind of done a bit too much. I was kind of having some like knee pain, which I didn't really know why. Like I changed pedals and shoes the week before the race, so I think it might have affected me a little bit, which is a mistake I've made too many times, like changing to some cool new prototype stuff right before like a 10-hour race. So it would have been a very minor difference, but I feel like it was that mixed with the running. And then also there's so much mud. I've been trying to analyze what happened, but also with the mud, the bottom of my cassette was all full of mud. So I could only use like I couldn't use like the bottom 3 gears. So my cadence was really high when I was trying to pedal. So I'm just like spinning like crazy. And just all of a sudden, like after I was dropped, I was like, oh, my knee kind of hurts. I should back it off a bit. And then I was with this group. I'm like, okay, this is okay. Like we have a little good routine going. We'll be fine. It was with Hugo and Alexi Vermeulen and this big Norwegian guy,
Yeah.
and one other, I think. And we're riding well. And then I went over a timing mat. I'm like not 100% sure, but we crossed over a timing mat. And the second we went over this like big plastic thing, I just hear like the like really quickly, like my tire was flat and I was like riding and I had the foam insert so I could keep riding. So I'm on the foam insert and then I'm thinking, okay, it's only like 5K at the next feed zone. I think I can make it. And then I realized pretty quickly, I'm like, okay, no, this is way too hard to push this almost rim. So I
Mhm.
stopped. I jumped off the try to see if I could plug it. And then I just looked at it and it was like someone attacked me with a knife. So it was not fixable. So then I got to the pit. And then again, in like the privateer life, I'm super thankful for the support I had, but there was no mechanic, no pit crew. So I'm just like, I need my wheel. You had to find your wheel, change the wheel, also change all your nutrition. So you lose like
Yeah.
a couple minutes instead of maybe 30 seconds. If you've got someone to hold the bike, someone to change the bike, someone's giving you nutrition. I was doing a job that 4 people could have done. So it was fun. I got going again. And then I think after stopping there, like my knee was really hurting and a group came and passed me and then I like went to accelerate to get into the group and then it just started hurting and I'm like covered in mud. It's thunderstorms on top of this like big huge prairie plain. I'm looking down and seeing like 180 kilometers to go.
Mm.
And then in that moment I just was like, you know what, like if I did everything and everything worked out really well and I could finish 15th at this race and put myself through a lot in the next 6 hours getting to the finish, I'm not sure it would be worth it. If everything went right, I had no more issues. It's like it is really crazy, like because the amount of effort and time and money for the race, and
Yeah.
then to think when do I stop? When do I stop like buying lottery tickets? Because it's like okay, well, I could make this injury a real thing. I could do more damage to my bike, which is either things I've got to chase up from all around the world. It's trips to the mechanic. It's me working on my bike, like here in my parents' basement. I don't have many more tires. I'm really, really, really low on tires. So it's like, okay, well, if I get one more flat, I've got to locate another tire from somewhere. Maybe it's like an hour drive to find a bike store like that has that tire, Toronto or something, because Canada is not massive for cycling. And it's all these things where I've had to quit before this race and it's just a little unfortunate that, yeah, I did make some errors, but also it's like, how can I don't understand why it's such a big race, and I think everyone's kind of the same. Nobody leaves the race. And that's what I've kind of put on my like social media is like nobody leaves this race going like, wow, I had so much fun in Middle America. Those straight roads, like eating so much like cow poop from the
Mm.
fields, like destroying. Like I spent like $3,000 to do $1,000 of damage to my bike. Yeah, it's a brutal race. It's really like the more money, the more support, the more like options you have, the better. You can't really do it. You can't really. It's yeah. It's the more money you have, the more opportunities you have, the more pit crew you have. You have like a pressure washer. You've got a bunch of wheels with different tires with different options. You've got a bike with a ton of clearance. There's so many things
Yeah.
you can really just buy a lot of your result. Obviously, the top guys who have all that stuff are way more talented than I am, and they've earned it and they deserve it. But it's not like the track. I feel in a lot of races in Europe, I feel you can just show up and you just need one dude to give you a bottle every time you go by. You don't need something crazy. Obviously, one bike is better than another, but yeah, it's like the specialized team I saw. They had people going out and reconning the mud in the morning before the 6 a.m. start, where I was just like, I think it's going to be muddy. Like the thought of saying like calling up the muck off like media team, like, hey guys, like I know it's 4 a.m., but can you drive like 50K south of here and go like walk through this section and tell me how far I can get in the mud? Like the specialized team had that, which is almost outrageous that they have that much at their disposal.
Support. Yeah.
So
Yeah. And I've heard few riders having the same point of view as you, saying, yeah, the race is what it is, but it's on the paper is not so exciting. So why everybody is going there and putting a lot of money on the table, especially have privateers with you know all the issue and all the trouble you can have during this race with the weather, with also the length of the race and the lack of support. But it seems that a lot of privateers do this race because it could be a life-changing race if you win it. It will be harder and harder with the team dynamic we have right now. But in the past, riders who won the race, it had changed their lives. Basically, going from privateers to maybe enter a good team or having more support from the brand you are in partnership with. So I think it's one of the explanation, and also you have the challenge because
Yeah.
you explain it's really challenging for you on site and during the race. So you have this challenge in your head and in your mind, and you want to do it well. So
Yeah, I think too, it's an interesting race for the fact that I think mentally I handled it quite well how it turned out because I knew going into it, I'm like, no matter what I do for preparation, so much can go wrong between like the mud, the rocks, and I was happy with how I got to the mud, and then just the flat I had was unbelievable, like almost unexplainable. It was just a normal. It was barely a gravel road, and we rode over this plastic thing, and I flatted, and it was just that's life. But yeah, it is like you say. Like I think if you're just going to complete the course, you have to be very mentally strong, even if you're just an amateur, because there is nothing interesting or redeeming about the course, in my opinion. Maybe that sounds harsh, but you compare it to like just the trails we have in Girona. I can't think of a kilometer of Unbound that's more interesting than any strip of gravel in Girona. Like there's not 1 kilometer I go, this is nice. It's fine. Like it's obviously cycling is suffering, but then, and I mean, I grew up here where I spent 5 months a year riding on an indoor bike, watching hockey or something, or old Paris-Roubaix videos on YouTube. So obviously there's a lot worse in life than just riding in the plains. But it is like you say, because so many people have mechanicals and so many people get messed up that I go into the race thinking, well, look at the start list and go, okay, I'm capable of beating this guy. Like these guys will almost always beat me, maybe. But then these guys who are finishing in the top 10, I know I'm capable of beating them. Like this course I don't love the course. It doesn't suit me. But then if you look at this list of, say, there's 20 guys who could be in the top 10, you go, well, a third of them won't finish the race, or they'll break a wheel, or they'll get a flat they can't fix, or their bike will get jammed up of mud. Which it's almost like a double thing where most races you do, if people have an issue, it's like, oh, you didn't have the right setup, or you took too many risks in like a rocky section, or you went too fast over this rocky section. There's a decision you made that caused you eliminated yourself from the race more or less. There can also be bad luck in there, but it's more like user error. Where Unbound is like 30 to 50% of the people who are capable of a top 10 are just like
yeah.
eliminated. So you can get a good result and be like, well, there's probably 20 guys who could have been here as well, but they didn't make it. But that's coming from me, who's also had 3 Unbounds in a row ruined. So
So yeah, and for you, what is the biggest lesson the Unbound Mud taught you this year?
like I already learned to keep my glasses on because I have
Mm.
friends who were also doing well, who didn't have bike issues, who just ended up in the hospital because they had so much like feces in their eyes. So that was a big one, is keeping the glasses on. Maybe wearing a little hat if you can also really helps. I still got so much stuff in my eyes, even with glasses. And yeah, I think honestly, the takeaway is that having more clearance is obviously really important. But then I think at the end of the day too, it's my bike has quite a bit of clearance. It does a lot more than a lot of people. I saw somebody even running 40 mil slick
Yeah.
tires. But I was thinking, okay, 45 that blows up a bit with the foam insert, that's really safe for not flatting, and I'll have enough clearance. So I don't think I would have done anything differently with my setup. And I think my
Okay.
flat was just like a freak accident. But yeah, having that clearance was key. I think my only thing I would have done again is maybe I should have, because it's how do you, like, I could have tried to recon mud, but it was pretty dry until the race day. There was a bit of mud the one day, but also can change so quickly. It could have been nice to see how far I can get. But then again, it's like, well, the conditions change so quickly, and like your line choice, everything depends how much mud is going to build up. So maybe I could have gotten further, but I'm still think I played it on the safe side. Maybe I would have ridden another 2 meters, and then it would have been a serious problem. So honestly, this is the other thing, is I can't think of anything that I like really learned. Like I thought I played it safe. I thought I made good decisions. I think I just overcommitted to chasing back to the front. I should have been like, okay, like whatever happens, happens. But like I set almost power records for 3 hours, 4 hours, and that's with 6 hours to go. So you're thinking, well, I don't think I'm going to do an unprecedentedly good ride. Like I'm not going to do my almost best ever 3 hour power for another 6 hours. So I think I needed to, because I mean, you can't even see the computer screen. Like everything's covered in mud. So I'm just like, I feel good. I can keep pushing. I'm going to keep rolling through. I want to try to make it back to the front. And then I realized only after I'd uploaded my ride that I'm like, okay, I did a lot to get to that point. And especially when that includes like a neutral zone running. So anyways, yeah, I think that was the biggest thing. I should have just paced it better and been, this race is too high of a level for me to be able to lose a bunch of time running, bridge back to the front, and then be like, okay, I'm fine. I'm in the race. I could only be responsive to attacks and what's happening at the front if I would have just been there the whole time. But coming back from losing the group for a bit, I'm not good enough to chase back for 2 hours and then start attacking. Not at this level. So that was maybe the big lesson. But yeah, again, with the bike stuff, I don't think I do anything different. I think it's just a complete roll of the dice. And no matter what preparation, no matter what bike, like the third to half the people are going to just be eliminated just because you're going through the craziest stuff that bikes aren't really designed
Yeah.
to handle
Yeah.
it.
It's perfect transition you've made talking about the bike because we've seen a lot of specific survival modifications on the bike for Unbound. We saw unique setup this year to fight the condition with loop bottles fixed directly to the frame. Also a lot of hydro bags on the top tube to carry all the necessary nutrition and tools. And also athletes opting for less aero frames just to maximize tire clearance. So did you specifically change something on your bike to survive the mud?
Actually, I bought a spatula to be able to dig out the mud, but I didn't use it in the end because in our the bags when you signed on for the race, you got this 3D printed thing from Wheels Manufacturing that you could put under your bottle cage, and you could unclip this like little tool that was really short,
Nice.
but you could dig in around while you were riding. So that I didn't need to use it that much, luckily, because I could kind of get the mud out pretty quickly. But I would say adaptations were I put on a bigger chainring. I had a 50 chainring, so 50 by 1052. And yeah, the narrower tires, foam inserts, which I don't use often. Well, narrower tires 45, which is narrow for how rocky it can be. But yeah, also Guava, my sponsor, only has the one frame model. And I think it's like a pretty good mix where it doesn't look like some crazy futuristic aero bike, but it hasn't been wind tunnel tested, but it has, it's not like it doesn't have like a wall in front of it. Like I have all the tubes around it and it's been thought out to not be slow. So I think it's got good clearance and I didn't really have a lot of options. I just had two tire widths basically and foam inserts were the only things I could customize.
Yeah, sometimes it's even better because you don't have to mess around with your choices and until the last minute and stress about it. So yeah, sometimes it's better to have less options and go for it.
Hmm. Definitely.
How did you chain on there actually under the peanut butter mud? Because we've seen also a lot of issues. You've talked before that you weren't able to use the smaller gears. But did you have a specific lubrication strategy on the go, or you used a different kind of wax or whatever before?
I always just use the dark energy muck off wax, and it works. At Traka, I needed to relube my chain in the last 2 hours, 3 hours maybe, so it's got a good life. But I think also you see different people posting like, "Look how great my chain came out of Unbound, like with the lube I used." And then I think any brand would say with that much rain and sand and mud and water, after an hour, nobody's chain was like it might be degreased still from like having an ultrasonic clean and having a layer of wax, but nobody's chain is going to be like glossy with some sort of lube underneath the mud and like thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of revolutions with sand and mud. So I feel like anytime you see someone be like, "Look how great my chain came out," it's like that's just false advertising.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I had no aside from I couldn't get into the bottom three cogs at a point, and I was thinking like, is there something jammed in my derailleur? But I think it was just so much of a block of mud that the derailleur just couldn't move. But I did, man. It's also funny. You just aim for puddles. You see, like normally if there's puddles on a dry day, everyone's like going around the puddles. But then in Unbound, there was puddles, and everyone's like heading into the puddles and just like trying to get their bike rinsed off a little bit. So that was the really helpful thing too, is just to aim for the deep puddles to try to wash your bike. So I did get those cogs back
Okay.
later on. And yeah, I mean, my drivetrain, the derailleur sometimes is a thing where it's like tunk, 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 because there's got mud in it. So when it's going around, it's hitting like a block of mud somewhere. So it's also another thing too that throws you off because you're trying to chase at certain points and then you can't use harder gear and the gear you're in is skipping. So you want to go into a even harder gear that you can't reach so you can do a lower cadence. So even when it skips, at least you can push a bit harder in between the skips and then you're just kind of stuck like, oh, I hope this clears out soon because I can't, even if I'm feeling good or feeling bad, like I can't physically push anymore because my bike won't take it. But that was happening to everybody. Like that was happening to a lot of people, the chain skipping. So yeah, I mean, my drivetrain never sounded bad, but I think it was always lubed up with mud or something. So it's not making a lot of sounds, but it's going.
Yeah, this race is definitely mental from the beginning to the end. And regarding the tire and especially the pressure, so do you remember what was the pressure strategy? Because you had to manage the hidden flint rocks and the mud and some fast gravel section also, the gravel highways where you can go full gas. So yeah, it's really a strategic choice you need to make for the pressure too.
Yeah, I think I ran 23 psi, which is what 1.5 bar, 1.6 bar, something like
Yeah.
that. Um, just because I wanted to have a bit more grip in the mud or more like surface area in the mud. Because that for me, I feel like I normally run like 25 in the back, 24 in the front. But I think I just ran just 23 just to have a bit more grip in the mud. And then the lower you run, I find you're less likely to burp, more likely to cut.
Mm.
But with higher pressure, you're more likely to cut. Lower pressure, more likely to burp. So I feel like in this race, there's not a lot of in Traka. There's more rocks where you're like pounding down
Yeah.
something and your tire burps a bit of air. Where this race is not like that. So I'm thinking I want to minimize cutting. I've got the foam insert, so if a sharp rock does hit the tire, it might not cut. But in the end, it didn't go my way. And yeah, so yeah, definitely running just lower to reduce risk of cutting was a big one.
Bad luck, basically.
Yeah.
Last question about handband. If you need to make a choice right now, this day, and say, okay, I'm going back next year or not, what do you do?
I mean, I've been through this twice already, having done it and being like, I will never do it again. There was nothing enjoyable about that. Like nothing fun, nothing interesting. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like the organization is great. Everything around the race is awesome. Like it's super easy, super well organized. Like it's a really well run event. But yeah, I'd say I definitely will be back, but I definitely don't look forward to it.
Okay.
It's the race that, like we were saying before, if you win, or to get a really good result, it's a really valuable thing. But that's the only for me. That's that, and there's like a lot of like I met up with some sponsors I hadn't really met before in person, and there's a good it's a good bringing together of the world. It is a good summit of like the cycling industry and the gravel industry for sure. But I will be back for the opportunity of getting a good result there. What that means, but it feels like a job going to this race. Like it's not. It's counting the days till you're out of there. To be honest.
Yeah, I see. And talking about the job, so now we go on the privateer way of life and dilemma. So managing your own sponsor, your own career means you have to also to prove your return on investment for all the partners. And in today's gravel ecosystem, what do you think is the most valuable path for a privateer career? Is it winning several smaller, less known races, or winning one monumental race like Traka or Unbound and build your year around it?
Yeah, I think it's kind of the same way I feel like I looked at road, where you need to have a good result in a really big race, and then a lot of like good results in smaller races to prove that you can compete with the best. Like I think now if I won Traka, it would be huge for me, but no one could say, "Oh my God, what a shock," because I've been third,
Close.
fourth. Like I've always been around. Like obviously Mads beat us by 10 minutes, but if he would have just broken his bike or something and then it was the five of us racing for the win, like I could have maybe attacked earlier before the climb and had a lead going into the single track and then like it's not a lot. It's not a fantasy to think that I could have won from that group based on how it played out. And there's one guy who was gone. So I think that's also important to show that like if they sponsor you, like it's not unbelievable for you to be able to win like an Unbound or a Traka. Like it's might be a long shot, but it is possible. So I think that's valuable. And I think also to sponsors, because in gravel, I've always wondered too, like the social media impact. Like I do try my best, maybe not my best, but I try to do better with social media. There's still a lot of rules about like the algorithm and when to post and stuff that's totally foreign to me. And finding like, a lot of the times, like finding photographers, like I'm at this race and then this brand wants a photo. And then, okay, I got to ask this photographer and then they got a photo of you and then they don't want to send it in HD because then it's going to go to a brand. But then if you ask for it for the brand, they want to contact with the brand and then the brand's got to pay them. And then it's like, oh shit, like I'm still worried about like, I got to pick up my number. I got to sign up. I got to book a car for a race in a month from now. I got to change my tires and my foam inserts, and I need to find someone in this hotel with a floor pump so I can seat my tires. The fact that going through all those almost like bureaucratic hurdles to get photos of yourself is really hard. but there's obviously a ton of value in that. And some people are really good at it, or some people who have more support behind them in that sense, or have a budget from sponsors to spend on media. And that's really helpful. But I think too, a lot of the sponsors I've chosen, because that's a great thing about privateers. I'm not using any products where I'm like, this is garbage, but they pay me so much money. Because in road teams, you see that like the best teams have the best stuff, and then teams lower down the stacking order, they'll use definitely inferior products because those are the only brands left, or the brands willing to give more money, and the money goes such a long way. Where in gravel, I feel, especially as a privateer, I'm not getting ridiculous money from any one brand. Like they're not having, I feel like, I mean, they probably talk about where they spend their money, but I'm not Alpecin, Premier Tech, men's, women's, Devo. They don't need 10 people to decide to give me like $1,000 and all the whatever product I need. So it's helpful in that sense as well. And I think too, like just basically choosing more high performance equipment and not choosing anything too flashy. I'd rather have, I think brands would value, at least from me personally, would be like, oh, Ben used our new look carbon tie one-sided pedal to get fourth at the Traka, or Ben used our new Pirelli tire to get this result. Like just to more, so people back it up. Like it's more backed up. And I definitely noticed that with Guava as well. Like I've had some people ask about the bike, like, oh, I've never heard of it, so I don't want to buy it. And then it's like, well, every brand would have started that way. And then now Astana just won 3 Grand Tour stages on a bike no one's heard of, with the bike computer no one's heard of. And at what point do you have to prove it for people to buy it? And I think that's the thing with pros in any sport as well, is even talking to the organizers of one of the gravel series in Europe, they're like, oh, we really don't like the pros. They're annoying. And it's like, well, why does everyone wear Nike? Why does everyone wear Adidas? Why does everyone use the same shoes as the top footballers? Like everything kind of trickles down in every sport. So I think that's kind of more my path, is being like, okay, you never heard of a Guava bike? Well, I've won World Cups. I've gotten top 4 in the track over the last 2 years on a Guava. Like it checks out. Like it is a good bike, and it's more affordable and XYZ. So I also like doing that as well, working with some smaller brands or lesser known brands in some instances, because they're really passionate and I can help design, and I can be like, this is what you need. And then you see bike reviews being like, oh, the bike's not this. And it's like, well, what do you know? Like you say it's not aero or it's not whatever. Well, you went on like an hour and a half ride at 22 kilometers an hour. And even in the track, like you're going up, you're going down, you're in a group of 50 guys, you're going up, you're going down. And then I was thinking, there's maybe an hour of the race where aerodynamics would have played a factor. And then that was just because I was riding with 3 other people in a little group. And it's like, well, my back still is really comfortable. So that's probably worth a lot more than 2 watts.
For sure.
Anyways, that was a huge tangent I just got on. But I would say, yeah, I think until you have like 50,000 followers, it's more results based, I would say. And then because now too, I think a lot of the value I bring in social media is me having a professional photographer or something get a good photos of my bike. Made a couple of these little in race videos that have done really well, and it's just doing those and then sharing them with either the race or with sponsors who have a lot of reach, and people being like, oh, this is cool, and being exposed to what I make or what I've created and getting eyes on the brands and stuff. But I do think at the end of the day, it's more down to what you can put someone's product through and show that like I can get this result with this product. It's good enough. If it's good enough for, unless it's the people ranked ahead of me, if it's good enough for me, it's good enough for Joe.
For sure. And having also on my side a lot of discussion with athletes coming from the road. Sometimes for them, usually it's refreshing to be able to have direct relationship with the brand, because when you are in a world tour team, even a pro team, you don't really have relationship with the brand which are partner of your team. They are talking to the general manager and to sometimes the mechanic, but the riders, there are really sometimes few riders who are working with the brand closely to develop some product, but in a team of 40 riders, there's like 1 or 2, 3 maybe, but you are far away from this and exchanging, giving feedback and so on. So it's really refreshing for athletes.
Yeah, no, it is really good, because I've been testing prototype shoes from Quack for over a year. I was testing the Castelli like Aero gravel speed suit before it came out. The Guava bike, I gave a lot of input to what I thought it needed to be a more like to improve the bike they previously had. Yeah, I mean, like most brands I've worked with, I've had input, which is really nice. That they're like, "What do you think, Ben, as a gravel rider who's riding at a high level? what do you miss? Like, what's going to make this bike faster? So I think it's nice because obviously there's tons of people on the road who can give really good input and they know a lot, but then it gets trickles up to the better riders, then into the manager, and then what problems does the mechanic see with the bike? So it's a really cool experience, like doing these things, like sitting in a boardroom in Italy with Castelli people being like, oh, I think like the sleeve should be tighter, and then this pocket should be moved over here, like really minor things, and they're just all like taking notes. And yeah, it is cool to see input become a reality as well.
And on this privateer section, last question for you. So, what are your thoughts about the series and the overall classification, the Graveler series or the UCI Gravel World Series, for example? As a privateer, do you target them, or it's more something that if you are in the top three by the end of the season, maybe you will push a bit to reach the first spot? Or what are your thoughts on those overall classification?
Yeah, it's interesting too because it's not very like the UCI one's a bit more straightforward with just do as many UCI races as you can. But again, they should almost make it a certain amount of races. I guess it's really hard to say what's right and what's wrong because like on the road, obviously you can do a race in China that's a 0.2, or in Canada that's a 0.2, or one in France that's a 0.2, and they'll all be very different levels of difficulty. But they're all worth the same amount of points. So in the UCI series, everything's the same amount of points, but then you can do a race in a more or less popular cycling destination, or you can do one in Belgium and Wout van Aert's there.
Yeah.
So, and the winner gets the same points in both. I think also the gravel, that's the UCI. Like the UCI is a bit more standard and I think pretty well set up. The Gravel Earth series is a really interesting one where last year I was sixth or seventh, and basically I missed a race in Mexico that I probably would have been on the podium at, because I think after first, like Piotr Havoc won and he's a really good rider, but then after him it's just kind of like local road racers. So I was thinking I probably would have got second or third based on how I compared to Piotr and how much he won by. And if I would have just done that race, I think I would have been second overall in the series.
Okay.
And it's like the Graveler series, you can completely game the system. Like you can just be like, okay, I'm going to do Kenya. I'm going to do Lost and Found in California. I'm going to do, like, you can just pick a couple and get a good result. Because I think also last year, the top two guys had points from Lithuania and Latvia, which were they're also very good riders. But the thing that set them apart from the rest was that they raced in these races that had way, way, way less people. So I think having, at the end of the day, being like, oh, I finished seventh in the series has value, but you can finish a lot better than that. You can really bend the system to your liking. It's not as if in La Liga or Liga, you can go play like a bunch of teams in Luxembourg and just get a bunch of points and be like, oh, we're up there with PSG. You have to do the same games, the same process. And it is hard because gravel's new. So it is really hard for them to refine it and make it better. But like, for example, this year, I was terrible in Senegal. I was pretty good in gravel desert, good in Traka. And I'm going to do Oregon Trail and Iowa to hopefully get a couple more, improve some of my results. But then this year, the finals in Belgium, in the river, and we're actually expecting a baby, my wife and I, about
Congrats.
Thank you. So about 10 days after that, we're expecting a baby. So, and they've changed the rules again. So the rules kind of always change, but this year it's like you have to do the river and you have to finish. It says you have to finish. So even if you have an issue, if you quit the race, you're out of the entire series. And if like Madsworth Schmidt doesn't race, he doesn't get a finish in the series, although he's pretty much already guaranteed to win because he won Senegal, he won Traka. So it's a bit interesting, those rules. But I think the other thing, I guess this is me kind of crapping on them a bit. But last year, I got the prize money and I was doing the math and I spent, after taxes, I spent 10 times my prize money to attend the races. Like no one gets free entry. You do not get free entry. You're like flying around, renting cars, getting taxis, like begging for a ride, losing your bike, doing random stuff. And then it's not really, unless a sponsor is going to give you a massive bonus for a top 10 in the series, it isn't really worth chasing. So if everything's going good with the expecting baby and stuff, I'll go to the race. But I think if I don't do well in Oregon, I don't do well in Iowa, if I'm outside of the top 10, I'm just not going to, like if there's anything it could be a really bad con, like if I'm like, okay, well, I have to win to be in the top 10, or like the baby could come in any time, like I'm not gonna bother going to the race. because they don't entice you to go. Like nobody said, "Hey, are you coming? We'll give you free entry. Like you're in eighth overall right now. Like it's really important for you to be there." It's
Hmm.
just like they set it up to be like you have to go, but
Yeah.
we're not enticed. It's like, hey, like Anton, you have to like go right now, and like cut everyone's grass on the street, and you'd be like, well, why? Like, and I'm like, I'm just telling you, like, I'm not giving you any money. I'm not giving you any benefit to doing it. I'm just telling you. And you'd be like, well, why? Like, you're not the
Yeah.
boss of me. Like, so yeah, I mean, it is interesting, and like they put a lot of work into it, and we need the races, and that's the other harsh reality. Devil's advocate for them is at a certain point, because it's so new, I feel like there's not a lot of superstars in the sport. So you could replace the top 10 now with 10 different names, and people will probably, like, how much people care wouldn't drop off that much. When road is like, well, if Pogacar and Vingegaard and Van der Poel, whatever, like, we're not doing the Tour de France because of this, the Tour de France would go, okay, well, what if we change it? Or what if we make this like these things different for you?
For sure.
And then they go, okay, yeah, now we're cool. Now we'll come. And the Tour de France will be like, phew. Where I think a lot of gravel races, it's hard finding this balance of they need to make money. But I just really hope when these races, I know, and I understand like too, like there's a local race I'm doing this weekend and I didn't ask for a free entry. And I never actually asked for free entry
Hmm.
because, I mean, depending on the size of the race, like the Traka, I'm sure is like a money factory. Like they make so much money from
Yeah.
the track every year, I'm sure. But the smaller races, it's good to support them so they're back the next year. And I think too, it's just another part of the whole series, the whole system where, yeah, it's just, it's a balance where if you want people to keep taking it seriously, they need to be able to make money. And if you're spending 10 to 15 grand a year to be able to participate in the sport, you need to be getting paid triple that if you want to be, or double that at least if you want to be like, okay, I can live. And then you get to a point where, okay, a lot of people in gravel are older because they've come from road, they come from something
Yeah.
else. It's like, well, do I want to be living out of a suitcase 200 days a year in my 30s to make less than minimum wage? Like, do you, like, if you do, it's like, okay, well, you don't want a girlfriend or a wife or kids, or you don't want to like get any closer to that next phase in life, that phase after cycling. So yeah, I think it's just really challenging with how some of the series are set up and how they do things. There's not a lot of income sharing or like sharing of the wealth, which I think will have to change. Or I also, one thing I'm really hoping for is that there's more races with more prize money and more people get involved. Because I think you could run a race that overlaps one of these big races and go, okay, it's the same prize money as a US race. It's 5 grand for the win, 3 grand for second, 2 grand for third, boom, boom, boom. And I think a lot of people would go, I'm actually going to skip that famous race because I want to put food on the table. So it would be nice. Prize money and insurance would be
For sure.
basically in cycling what feels like baseline human living conditions in some situations.
Yeah, the gravel ecosystem is growing, but not as fast as what we need in terms of structural environment. But it's like this in more sports. We've seen the same with trail running, which has evolved a bit in the same way as gravel. Maybe I'm few years in advance, maybe right now, but they have the same issue with the organization of the races, the prize money, and the way everything is working. You're all working together, and now as a private, you really rely on the partner money, and that's all you can do right now at this moment. But I hope it will evolve, and I'm pretty sure it will evolve. But how long it will take to evolve? That's the big question. And yeah, we need to push for this to for you to be able to make money and have make a living out of your results. Otherwise, you are relying on other stuff like content and storytelling, but you are not focused 100% on your racing abilities.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another job, let's say.
Yeah, it's like it is hard to know too what's going on behind the scenes with all these events too. You don't know who's doing great, who's doing poorly, who could give more back to the community. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But yeah, it's the sport's growing fast, so things need to get better in a lot of situations.
What are the next targets? So, what is the main goal for the rest of your 2026 campaign to bounce back from Unbound after a good start, a good beginning of the season?
I think luckily for me, I've gotten good results now at the kind of the key races, which is a great platform to build on. Of course, Canadian Nationals is in a week, so I'd like to keep my Maple Leaf jersey. And then, yeah, it's kind of more just a lot of races, I would say, that are pretty similar level, or I mean,
Yeah.
similar importance. Like I'm racing Oregon Trail, doing a race in Colorado. I'll be in Spain for a month. I'll do then I come back to the US and do a couple more races that are really similar to Unbound. So I don't know how excited I am for those, but yeah, I just want to try to be consistent and do well in every race I do. There's no race that's kind of like a shining star. Like, oh, I really, after nationals, I mean, there's no race that's like really important. I just want to do a good job of keeping good shape and riding well and making the most out of every race, but there's no race that's like circled and underlined and super, super important. I might do European Championships because I have a license from Catalonia, so I qualified for Europeans. So I think it'd be really funny to go race as a Canadian in the European Championships. But because the course suits me, but I think the level will be super high, so that's a maybe. And then the river, the final of the Graveler series, if everything's going well with the baby and I'm doing well in the series, and then some races near Girona, all dependent on what happens with the baby. And then I am going to go to Worlds in Australia. It was going to be a bigger trip, but now obviously we planned it before the baby was coming. So it might just be like the craziest, fastest Australia trip ever, like 2 days to travel there, 3 days there, hanging out, do the race, get home. Because I don't want to miss anything back home. So just, in and out, see what I can do. The course looks really cool. It's a lot of climbing. So we'll see how my sleep has been and how my form is because it's so far away. But I think it could be a course that suits me. Just up and down, up and down, up and down. And also it's going to be an interesting Worlds as well because the last 2 years, Worlds was like where the Worlds was from last year to the year before. It was like a 30-minute drive. And I think this year, there's a UCI rule, like the race has to be at least 55% gravel. And then this year it was like 54% gravel. So it was, or 56% gravel. Like it was just legal, but it's done by this Golazo company that does a really good job organizing races. But then again, since it's in Belgium, there's all these guys who are like, oh yeah, I'm like a World Tour pro, whatever, don't really participate in gravel, and they just show up and win. And this year was the best preparation for gravel worlds this past year was road racing. Like it was a road race. Like there was nothing challenging. It was just that the surface was like you could have ridden on a road bike, pretty much the whole thing. The last 2 years.
Road bikes with 32, 34 millimeter tires, or yeah, it needs to change to still be a gravel world championship.
Yeah, so I think the one in Italy a couple of years ago, that was like before I was doing gravel, but that was a lot more of a gravel race. But then the thing is too, is I still get that like gravel is ambiguous as a sport. There's no hard line really with like what is gravel. Like even if it is a gravel road, like is that a gravel road enough? Like is that single track too single tracky? So I do think it's not wrong, but I think it's the kind of course where a real gravel rider never could do well because it's like doing a pro kermesse, like doing a crit was the best training for Worlds the last 2 years. So I'm looking forward to Worlds in Australia because I think a lot of these guys who are on $1 million road contracts who can just walk out their front door and do gravel worlds the same day, they're not going to go. And it might be a more gravel style rider who wins, someone who's committed to gravel. Not saying that people like Mads and Roman Bardet are not gravel riders because they're committed, they do the time and they like really respect it. So I kind of hope somebody like that wins, or myself, but do my best. But it'd be nice to see a race with the same cast and crew from gravel races racing for the rainbow jersey, not just racing for 50th mixed in with guys who race for like a Dutch continental team who are just used to like sprinting out of corners, getting on the wheel, sprinting out of corners, getting on the wheel, like 1 minute climb. Because it's not as true to the sport, I think, although the sport is young. It would be nice to see like a real gravel champion and maybe hopefully see the jersey at a lot of races, not just basically never or once a year.
And the ultimate question of the show, if you could only win one single race this season, it could be races you already done on some which are next on the schedule. And which one would it be and why?
Probably Unbound, like we were just talking about, although just because the opportunities it would give, you see the people who've won it in the past, like Rosa won a couple years ago, and she was, to me, like unknown, and she flatted and had like a foam insert and then got to a pit and changed wheels and got back to the front and then won the sprint. And then now she's on a women's world tour team. She's living the lifestyle of the rich and the famous in gravel, and she's a big, like a hot commodity everywhere she goes, and she's getting a lot of support and a lot of opportunities. And that win, like she's obviously a great rider, she wins a lot of races, but before that moment, to me, she was pretty much anonymous, and then now she's a superstar. And same with Cam Jones as well. I did Oregon Trail 2 years ago with him, and super strong guy, like laid back, swimming in the river, throwing the frisbee around, really strong guy. And when he won, I didn't find it. I wasn't shocked. I was like, yeah, this guy is the real deal. And yeah, he was just sleeping in his little tent, hitchhiking around. I think like very much on the fringe, just getting to races when he could, and he had some good support and he was a good rider, but he wasn't spoiled And now it's he's probably overwhelmed by all the media stuff he has to do and how much of a big deal he is. Like he's got the 32-inch wheel bike and all these
Yeah.
crazy things. Like he's really at the forefront of gravel now. And so yeah, I mean, obviously, like winning Canadian nationals and keeping the jersey would be huge. Traka, because it's in my adopted home, would be huge because it'd be in front of friends and family. But yeah, to be honest, like Unbound would winning that gives you the leg up of like, okay, well next year I'm not going to be in a hotel room by myself for a week doing all my own mechanics and shopping and cooking. Like maybe I'm going to be in the house of brand X and like, ooh, we
Yeah.
can get a massage. Someone else is going to wash my bike after the race. Like I finished the race in pain, can barely see, and I spent like 3.5 hours like taking my because I used different sets of wheels because I flatted, so I'm like cleaning
Mm.
everything, and I'm like, damn, I don't think Mads
No.
is washing himself and rinsing his kit because he's got to conserve his kit that's now like looks destroyed and like walk into Walmart after when people are still racing Unbound to like go buy OxyClean to try to keep my whites white, you know. So that yeah, winning Unbound would be huge because then you maybe like I won't have to cook my own meals and fix my bike, and I can actually because before Unbound, I don't think I think I laid down and relaxed for like maybe an hour the day before just because photo shoot, recon, number pickup, putting numbers on, buying spatulas, getting stuff for dinner, changing my tires, and then before you know it, it's 5 o'clock, and you're like, oh,
I need
I'd
to rest.
I'd I'd planned to stretch today, but haven't had time. So that's definitely an Unbound for sure. Unfortunately.
Yeah, we'll see next year if it's happening, but that's everything we wish you. So thanks a lot, Ben, for taking the time to talk with us. And yeah, we'll talk after the season, maybe doing a recap and coming back on those goals and the objectives you talk about.
Thanks, Anton.
You're welcome. Bye bye. And that's a wrap for this episode of the Gravel Paddock. If you want to stay ahead of the peloton, the best thing you can do right now is hit that subscribe or follow button. If you enjoyed the deep dive, please drop a 5-star rating and leave a comment. For more inside access between episodes, follow us on Instagram at the Gravel Paddock. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next episode. Ride hard.